Hello, this is the third and final tutorial for English Writing 130 EAP. I have talked with you about finding information with keywords and understanding how it is packaged in containers. Now we are going to talk about how you know when information is good. When you see a good news article, how do you know it is good? How do you determine which sources of information to use for your research assignments? If good information were the foundation of a house, what would it look like? It probably doesn't look like this house on the left. Instead, it would be like the architect's model of the house on the right, based on carefully drawn plans and measurements. Good information has certain characteristics, like being credible, accurate, and free of grammar and methodological errors. Unfortunately, there is no checklist for what good information looks like that can satisfy every researcher's needs, but there are some important features that good information shares. But first, why do we even want good information? Well, like building a strong foundation for a house, we need to start with good information to build our plans and design our arguments. Good information should come from an authority. Author and authority share the same root, so you need to think about who is providing information to you. Did you have a favorite teacher in school? Think about that person. Did you think they taught you good information? Where did they learn about the information they taught to you? In other words, how did they develop their expertise in their subject area? How did they become an authority in their field? Or was their information good because you agreed with it? If you thought it was good because you agreed with it, you may have experienced confirmation bias. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, a bias is a preference or an inclination, especially one that inhibits impartial judgment, an unfair act or policy stemming from prejudice, or a statistical sampling or testing error caused by systematically favoring some outcomes over others. A confirmation bias is a type of bias. According to the Leadership Glossary, Essential Terms for the 21st Century, it causes the tendency to weight more heavily information that confirms beliefs one already holds or a hypothesis one is testing. Good information should come from an expert or an authority on a topic and should be free of bias. One way to find out more about an author is simply to Google them. Are they a scholar who teaches at a university? Are they an expert in the field? Or are they a journalist who has spent a long time researching and reporting on a specific topic? Try to find out why they are qualified to write about the topic to determine if the information is authoritative. Also, check the methodology section of the paper to learn how they gathered and analyzed their information. In the last tutorial, I explained that a peer-reviewed scholarly journal is generally seen to contain good information. The journal is a proxy for quality, meaning it represents quality. So when your instructor asks you to find trustworthy or good information, you know that you can use peer-reviewed scholarly journals to find it. This doesn't mean that you agree with the articles in the journals or that the articles in the journals are 100% correct. However, now that you know how different information containers are created, you can also evaluate the containers themselves. Who published the book or journal? Who owns or advertises on the website that you are reading? Is your information from a scholarly source or a popular source? And which one do you need to answer your research question? The English idiom, "the proof is in the pudding," means you have to taste the pudding or the dish yourself to know if it is good. So I want you to dive into the content of the information and read it yourself to determine whether it is good. Let's imagine you find a good quotation. That same quotation can appear in an online news article, in a print newspaper, in a journal, or even in a scholarly book. It can be very formal in tone, technical, or even casual. What is important to think about is what the content or the quotation is communicating and how it is communicating it. This will help you determine whether it is appropriate for your research paper. For example, a YouTube video may not be scholarly in tone, but it might contain an interview with the expert on the topic that you are studying and might give you the perfect quotation or a new idea for your research. But how will you know if you don't dive in and read or watch it? Old information can be good if you are looking for primary source documents like personal diaries to learn about a historical event. On the other hand, new information is good when you want up-to-date scientific or medical research. In recent years, we have seen outbreaks of the diseases Ebola and Zika. News reporters explained that the world lacked recent research on these diseases. Unfortunately, the old information about these diseases did not provide enough knowledge to the doctors and scientists working with the outbreaks to properly address the situations. Remember to pay attention to when the information was published so that you know whether it will be appropriate for your research topic. You can usually pick a date range in the database for the time period of the information that you want on your topic. The next time you come across information that you want to include in a research project, you should remember to ask yourself how you know it is good. You cannot simply say, I know this is good because it is about engineering and I am an engineering major. If you think good information is simply attractive or professional looking, then you are not using the content to help you determine if it is good. For example, many government websites have good information on them, but they are very ugly. Be sure to review or skim the content to see if the tone is formal enough for your purposes, and try to determine how the author gathered and analyzed their data or theories. You must use information well to show to your professor that the information is good. Choose appropriate information sources and use quotations or paraphrase it correctly. In your paper, you can explain why the information is credible by mentioning the author and how they got their expertise. And be sure to cite the information source with a proper citation. Pause the video here to read the reasons it is important to cite sources in your research. Many of you are experts in something already. Do you play a musical instrument or speak 2, 3, or more languages? Do you know how to fix a car or a computer? Are you the best cook in your family? What are you an expert or an authority in? I bet you didn't become an expert overnight, but it took some time and practice for you to develop skills. Research is also a skill that takes time and practice. As you study at IUPUI, remember that your papers and projects need a strong foundation through good information sources in order for you to develop your expertise. Using good information will improve your papers, your grades, and make your instructors happy, but it will also help you to become an authority in your field, and that success will benefit you in the world outside of school as well.